I'm Doug,
I'm Tova.
and I'm a songwriter and producer,
And I'm a songwriter.
and we have written for High School Musical,
The musical, the
the
series.
series, and
And
this
this
is
is Young Entertainment
Entertainment Mag.
Mag. Amazing. Well, thank you again for joining us. You both look fabulous. I'm Daniela with Young Entertainment Mag. I love the team dynamic just because personally, my husband and I, we work together. And so it's so fun. It's like this crazy, and I bet you all the time people say, like, how do you guys work together? Because I feel like it's not a common thing, I think, or it's less common than you would think. And this is not on my questions, but really quick, if you could sum it up in one sentence, like what is it like working together?
A dream come true, honestly.
Aw, that's so
It
nice.
is. It is. I couldn't imagine my life any other way. So, yes,
That's so nice, you guys.
I was just gonna say it's great, but his is way
it's,
better.
it's great.
No, it really is great. It's great. I mean, it's not a one sentence answer, but yeah,
Totally.
it works. I think if you are lucky enough to have a partnership that works well in work, that's amazing. But being able to have it like throughout life, I feel so lucky that it freaks me out.
Yeah,
Put it that way.
it is a bit of a loaded question because
Yeah.
it's because we not only share our business together, we also share our life and and a family. So to be able to find someone that usually in most relationships, just in general, whether it be work or home, you're with them for a specific amount of time during the day, and then you go off to whatever other life you have. But with us, it's 24/7. There's
Yep.
no breaks.
I think the question we get is, don't you guys get sick of
Right.
each other?
But that's why I'm saying it's a dream come true, because we work so well
We
together
do.
with work and with home that it's because especially in this industry, you're working weekends, you're working
Yeah.
past 5 p.m. I mean, you're going
Yep.
one into the night. And if her or I were with someone that didn't understand the industry, I think there's room for hiccups and issues where it's like, well, why are you working on weekend, this, that? But there's such an understanding that there's never pushback of, oh, we have to go handle this now. And we're just honestly, we're a great team, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm very grateful every day for it. Yeah.
We were best friends first, like best friends. Like
Mhm.
we went from best friends to writing partners and best friends to ending up together to here we are married. Yeah, it's but you know what I would say? I'd say that I think any relationship that has a very strong mutual goal, I think that's a really good thing to have in a relationship, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be work related, but I think for us having that like love of what we do and passion for what we do and obsession for what we do, so to be able to share that, it kind of is now like the family goal. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so cool.
It was
It's
not a
special.
one sentence answer. I'm
Yes.
so sorry.
Sorry.
I'm so
I-
sorry.
I shouldn't have put that confinement on that because no, you're right. It's so dynamic. There's so much that goes into it. And I feel like it's so special. It's a gift, and it's one of the rarest kind of gifts in the world because you don't see it a lot. So, especially in this industry where family isn't always like the
Yeah.
front runner of priorities, it's so cool that you guys are doing what you're doing. So
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, so how did you guys get into songwriting?
Oh man. Well, for me, I honestly, I knew what I wanted to do since I was 8 years old. I remember this was bad. This is going to show my age a little bit. This was back in the age when MTV still played music, and Basket Case by Green Day came on MTV, and I was like 8, and I was like, "What is this? Oh my God, this is what I'm going to do." And my intention was always to be in a band, and that's how I started. I started as soon as high school was over. I was touring the country. I mean, that was my thing. I was the singer and guitar player, main songwriter in a bunch of bands. And then I kind of realized as time went on that life on the road was just not a good fit for my personality. And also, it's rare that you're going to find like a Bruce Springsteen or a Paul McCartney that are doing this till they're 70, 80 years old successfully. So I kind of shifted gears and switched over to writing for other artists, and just really was grinding away doing that, just networking, meeting as many people as I could. I was on the East Coast. I'm originally from New Jersey, so I was doing a lot of trips to Manhattan to work out of there. And that was kind of my introduction, just writing for other people. I mean, there's a whole list and long story after that that led me to here, which we can go into later or now, up to you. But that was the beginning of my journey as far as songwriting, not for myself necessarily as an artist, but for other projects.
And I had a similar trajectory. We didn't know each other, of course, but same thing, like knew what I wanted to do early, didn't know what that meant, had no one in my family who did anything remotely connected to the entertainment industry. Supportive mother, came here, was like, I'm gonna be an artist, and started a band and kind of did the thing. And I was writing for myself, and just eventually either it was a situation where I wasn't going to use the song and someone was like, oh, can I use this? Or someone was like, oh, join. I didn't mean to be a songwriter for other people. I meant to write my own songs. And I just kind of, first it was an accident, then it was intentional because I really loved it. And I ended up working on, you name it, I worked on it, because in LA, it's very, the songwriter circle in LA is very much like you just jump in on sessions. So one day you're doing hip hop, and one day you're doing pop, and one day you're writing for a Japanese penguin. And I'm not lying, that was a thing I did. And so that's what I did for a very long time, because it was never boring. It was really interesting. It was a lot of different things. And yeah, and like Doug said, there's another story to how we got here today, but that's how I ended up here.
I love it. Okay, and this Green Day story, I can relate, and this will show my age a bit, is when I knew when I wanted to be a singer-songwriter was when McDonald's released their Happy Meal, where their gift that they were putting in the Happy Meals was the NSYNC Britney Spears EP. It was like this orange disc.
What was that song? There was a song by Britney Spears called Heart. Do you remember that song? It was no, I know, because you couldn't get it any other way.
I would know it then, because that thing was front and back. I was obsessed. I would sing it. There was the one about the girl in the mirror. Is that song?
That was another. No, that was, I think, a different one.
Okay.
There were 2 Britney and 2 NSYNC ones. But yes, that was a very solid gift.
Oh, it was. It changed my whole life. Anyway, so I feel you. Okay, great. So then you guys,
you do changes everything.
Well, the classic Happy Meal.
It's the classic Happy Meal.
Right? Okay, so that's how I get it. It's like you're born with this fire in your soul. You know, it's what you're meant to do. So then fast forward, how did you end up, I know it's a loaded question, working together and then writing for a High School Musical, the series?
Okay, so we'll pick up where I left off, I guess. If I was shifting gears to write for other artists, I ended up getting, for years I was doing that on the East Coast. And I mean, you name it, like Tova said, there's a lot of different things that you need. It's not just, I'm just going to write pop songs. You're also writing jingles, and there's a lot of different things that you
it's a weird
do.
way.
Yeah, it is, because I think you have to wear many hats.
Yeah.
Because the more valuable you are, the more valuable, obviously you are to other people, the more you have to offer. So just trying to get a lot of skill sets, underneath my wings was great. So I learned how to produce as well, and just arrange, and, because I was already a musician too that wrote songs. So it's like, why not learn how to put those songs on something someone can listen to? I ended up getting an opportunity to work with a really big producer that was like an idol of mine, out here in Los Angeles. And I flew out to kind of try out, I guess, and I got the job, and I moved everything out. I drove out in this like piece of garbage car that was falling apart. Yeah, no money in my bank account. And I just made it out here. I was sleeping on a couch, and I was working for this guy for it was like 14-hour days, 7 days a week, 0 days off. For like 3 weeks or a month go by. I still don't have a place to live. And I say to him, hey, I just need one day, like, to breathe and to find myself this place to stay and get situated. And then he fired me.
No way.
Fired me. And he never paid me for any of the work that I did.
Oh my gosh.
Didn't even have money to get home. And I still had a girlfriend on the East Coast at the time. That was kind of like, okay, so you're going to come back now, right? And I was just like, no.
No way.
Honestly, I surprised myself. I was like, I'm not going to come back. And I was actually shocked at my own answer, because you'd think, well, you don't have anything. You literally, like, you have no money, you have no job, you have no place to live. Like, what are you doing? but something in me was just like, no, you're here. Like now's the time to really get to work. And I just literally reached out to everyone that I kind of had known. I was just like, help, like anyone know anyone knows anyone that knows anyone. And I fast forward, I met more people, and was actually introduced to some people over at Hollywood Records and Disney Music Publishing.
Cool.
And they kind of took me under their wing and just started sending me on a bunch of writing sessions, like pop writing sessions. This wasn't TV and film stuff yet. And I was just writing with everyone in Los Angeles, because like Tova said, that's what you do. And in the meantime, while that was happening, her and I ended up meeting at a songwriter Halloween, pre-Halloween party.
Early October.
Everyone's dressed as like this cool, sexy cat.
There were a lot of
something,
sexy
just, you know,
cats.
all the reason just to get up and look nice and weird. Me, being that I didn't really know anyone, I was just like, you know, I'm just gonna be weird as hell. Sorry, I don't know if I can say it. I'm just gonna
I think it's
I'm gonna be
okay.
super weird.
Yeah, you're good.
I dressed up as giant life-size Gumby, like
No
from
head,
head
like
to
it
toe.
was zipped up.
Really creepy. Probably could have been a serial killer if you didn't.
Easily.
And I'm there, and it was people just like, who is this dude, and why is he so freaking creepy? And then Tova walks in, and she's dressed as this giant life-sized obese Coke bottle, which all you see is like this.
I looked
cute
like a
little puffy
nun.
face.
It was like this much face, and
Yeah.
it was an inflatable Coke bottle. It was rather large.
We look at each other
I
because we're
love it.
both ones dressed up in like an actual costume. We're just like, hey.
Yeah, we literally went, hey! That's what we said to each other.
Yeah. And we did the thing like that people do in LA. It's like, oh,
You'd like to ride with me? Oh, yes,
like,
I would like
yeah,
to ride
you're
with you.
cool.
We will ride.
I'm Doug, you're Tova. You wanna write. So later on we ended up having a writing session.
And we were like,
Yeah, that's fine.
fine.
We just
Okay.
wrote a song. Was like, okay, this was fine. Nothing to no pun intended write home about, but whatever. We ended up just becoming really great friends, and we stopped writing together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, let's just.
We took a lot of trips together, but we didn't write together.
Okay.
In the meantime, I ended up, one of my goals, you know, since everything had kind of fallen apart when I first moved out to LA, one of my goals was like, I want to get a major publishing deal before I turn 30. Like, I was just turned, at the end of 28, just turned 29. So a year of really hustling. 2 weeks before I turned 30, I ended up signing a publishing deal with Disney, which was super just amazing and justified a lot that I wasn't crazy. And being signed to Disney, I mean, granted, they're just like any other record label / publisher where it's like, okay, I was kind of brought on as a pop guy just to write pop songs for pop artists and do pop co-writing sessions or whatever else we want to do. But because they have so many mediums and there's so many vessels and pathways to all the other sectors of Disney, like motion pictures and, you know, the Disney Junior, Disney Channel, Disney Plus, the parks, everything. We had access to briefs to be able to have the opportunity to try to submit for projects that Disney's doing elsewhere. And the first one that I got that was outside of the pop world, which was more the film TV world, was for a Marvel project. And I kind of hit Tova up. I was just like, hey, do you want to...
He's like, what are you doing today? Do you want to do
do you
this
wanna come
brief
over and
for Marvel?
try to submit for this thing?
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
Sure.
And it was super fun. It was different because we were writing for a scene, for a story, and our job was not just to write a song about, I don't want to say generic emotion, but something really universal that, let's be honest, has been said before, because pop songs are meant to be able to connect with people, which is great. The great thing about them. But sometimes, you know, it's a lot of the same things said in different ways. So this was a nice new exercise for us to write to a story and help guide it. And we ended up winning it. It was a song we did with Dove Cameron called Born Ready. And it was super exciting. Like, this was really, really cool.
And then that team ended up bringing us on to do a bunch of songs for that series, where, again, it was different. Like, we were talking to the SVP, we were talking to the writers, we were talking to the showrunners, we were finding out what's going on in the show. What do we need to get from here to there? We were getting scripts. It was completely different than a lot of the other stuff we were doing. And I think it found us at a time where we were both pretty uninspired by what we had done for years. Because it was, again, like Doug said, you're kind of writing the same song over and over and over. And LA is full of a lot of people who think that they're different from everyone else, and they keep asking you for the same thing. And we were kind of just, I think, a little restless within that. So when that came along, we're like, oh, this is great. And then we very consciously started seeking out other opportunities in that world. And then we started going like, well, what can we do with this? We can, like, we love this. Let's try to get more in TV and film. What does that look like? Oh, how would this translate if we tried to go with live stage? Oh, what do we need to do to like end up being the people who write the next La La Land? Like what? And I think for us, getting to do stuff like High School Musical was probably more exciting than it would be for a lot of other people, because some songwriters like, okay, cool, I got a cut in this, I got a cut in that. And for us, we were like, oh no, we're building this resume that we're so proud of, that we love, and it's like all very directional and very intentional. And I swear to everything, like the way the universe works, as soon as we did that, after years of toiling, like it was like, here you go, boop, 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 boop.
Everything started working.
And everything just started working.
Yeah. And the how we got the High School Musical was actually the same. It's similar to how a lot of these projects come to be, at least it was for the beginning of our career, you know, until we had a chance to prove ourselves, was you basically just get a piece of paper. It's called a brief. And it's just a description of whatever scene you're being assigned to write for, and it's not given to you. Like you're competing against your peers, other songwriters,
your friends,
and it's just, here's the scene, here are the characters, here's a small piece of the story, here are some of the musical influences we like.
Sometimes they're completely opposing, by the way. Yes. Sometimes it's like, we love this song because it's so big and melodic, and we love this song because it has no chords. So yeah.
So you have to decipher and be like, okay, we have to make this work for this moment. And you also, not only do you have to write it in a way that moves the story and connects with the scene, but you also have to do it in a catchy way to where it's a memorable song too, but you're not being too on the nose to where you're just literally directing. You are standing here, then you're going to go over there. It's like, it's not, it's theatrical, but there is a
it's a very precise puzzle, and it's very fun.
And there's a medium between theatrics and pop. And that's what I really enjoy, because we're big theater fans as well. So being able to do projects that have a little bit of that influence, to be able to sometimes go on a musical tangent as well, to just kind of take left turns here and there. But now I'm going on a literal tangent. So yes, that's how we got High School Musical. We ended up winning.
The first song was
Born to Be Brave.
Yes.
And we won that spot, and we were so excited. And we got to meet, you know, Tim Federle, who's incredible. And we hit it off with everyone. And, you know, that was the first of every season that we were going to be a part of. And we were a part of every season up until the end, which was awesome.
Amazing. Okay, so, and that was like my next question, but you answered all of it, because I want to talk about Born to Be Brave. And that is so like mind-boggling how that works, how you won the spot. And that ended up being like a huge song. That was the anthem. Yeah. So that's so cool. Okay, I need to look at my questions here, because you answered so many in one moment.
So I'm like, we're done. Doug had vocal surgery. He can't really talk. Then Doug just does not shut up.
Doug has things
to say.
You haven't talked for a while. You have earned the right to speak.
Well, I was like, wow, this is actually really impressive. He's doing great with his voice. This is good. Okay, so wow, no, you really knocked so many of them out. Okay, and then also, this is a fun one we haven't touched on. How do you get into the brain of high schoolers? I mean, I still feel like I can kind of get in that headspace, no problem. Was that a challenge for you guys, or was that like, oh, we remember that like that was yesterday?
I think we never grew up.
Right? I feel that. I love it.
You know what's interesting about high school, not even high school, even younger than high school, you just feel things so intensely. And I think a lot of creators continue to feel things so intensely through life. I don't think we get as numbed as sometimes other people do. But to me, like, what's so crazy about high school is when you look back at it, you're like, eh. But at the time it felt like so much. And I think that's we go there easily. I do think we go. easily. Do you agree?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing, like you said, is we never grew up. I mean, obviously we did, but like there's a part of you that can't, especially when you get to do what you love, and what you love you started doing in this awkward place when you were a kid.
That's true.
That stays there intentionally, because when writing or creating anything, you have to be able to touch this emotional part of your own soul that you have to be able to keep revisiting. So I think by practicing as well, it just you always keep that portal open.
And I also think a lot of like your core memories from those times, like I think they're like still there and they're very easy to tap into. Like even if you're over something, you're like, I remember how intense that felt. I remember what I said at the time. I remember what kind of songs I was writing at the time. And then also on top of it, I think a lot of the things that are high school is just like a smaller version of what you deal with later in life. So
Yeah.
There's a quote: "High school never ends." And
Oh, God.
sometimes it really doesn't.
Oh God, I hate that. But it's probably true.
Guys, I love that. I feel this is so funny. I feel like I'm in a little therapy session today because I was having this meltdown and I'm like, I feel like I never want to grow up, but in the professional world. And I'm like, but that's what you guys are saying. It's like, as an artist, you do feel so deeply. As a creator, you feel so deeply. Your job in a way is about emotions and portraying emotions. And so I resonate with that on the deepest level. It's this, you're forever growing older, but you forever don't want to grow up. And you get to make a living out of it. And that's like the coolest thing ever. But sometimes you're like, wait, I don't know anybody, most of my friends are all growing up and they're not doing this for a living. And yeah it's this weird dynamic, but I totally get what you're saying.
That's why it's important to like find like-minded people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there aren't other industries that have this. There very well may be. And I have friends who aren't in the arts and they are just as goofbally and, non-grown up-ish, new words. But but I do think this is something we have in common. And I think it's something where like a lot of times back when I was doing all the songwriting rooms in LA, a lot of times you meet people you don't know at all, but you all kind of fall into that place of being weird, dorky, and stupid, and but
essentially we're all going to a playground every
day. And that's where we get our work done. And I find that a lot of times when that's not accessible in a creative surrounding, it kind of blocks the energy. Like if you feel judgment for that part of you, and just to segue, when we did Julie and the Phantoms a few years ago and Kenny Ortega was directing, we didn't believe how old Kenny Ortega was.
Oh yeah.
We did. I mean, I don't know if he tells people, so I don't want to say, but you can look it up. And when we met him, we got to go down to center staging. It was a whole thing. And he literally was like talking to us through a lyric, and he got up off the table, got onto the stage and started doing the can. And he's just like a giant kid. And I really feel like that's a huge part of his success because he doesn't have limitations on how he sees what he wants to make. And I think you should keep that part of you because, I mean, you should be proud of it.
Yeah, that is so cool, you guys. In high school, we had an assignment where we had to pick one role model and write them a letter and mail it to them. I wrote to Kenny Ortega. Didn't hear back, but that's okay.
Maybe you still will.
Funny. That's right.
Yeah. Who knows?
Be like, you never responded. Aw.
So funny.
He's fun. He is a fun person.
Yeah.
So cool. I mean, he's creativity in human form.
Yes. Yeah.
So cool. Okay, what time is it? We're almost up here. Let's see.
It's fast.
I know, right? I'm like, okay, but we're getting through a lot of this. Okay, so you had like a powerhouse cast with High School Musical, the musical, the series, and they've gone on recently to Tony nominees and winning Grammys. Could you sense that when you first started working with them? Like, this is something different.
What's your answer?
My answer is yes and no, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
The yes is them. Yes, they're all so talented.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my God, this is just such a great cast and such a great group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And the no is we were also babies too, coming in. Like, this was our introduction kind of to this world, and it was their introduction, not all of them, but to being part of this world as well. So I think you're caught up in the hype of like, what's going to happen? This is so cool. You're not really thinking so much about what's going to happen next as opposed to what's going to happen now.
Yeah.
But I do there. Yes, I will say there were a few cast members. I mean, again, all of them stood out, were incredible. But yeah, there were definitely moments where we're like, wow, like I can't wait to see what's gonna happen with them. But again, looking back to then the first season, and even though it was only what a handful of years,
Yeah,
it's not like it was 10 years or anything, but just to see how
There's
far
a lot of
they've come,
growth.
there was so much.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's that age too. Like you really do
Totally.
grow up quick around
Yeah.
that age. So
I'm gonna echo part of that. I think talent wise, it's no question, but to be a little jaded, I've done this, not the TV portion as much, but I've had years of working with people where sometimes I'm like, oh my God, this is the thing that's gonna blow up, and it doesn't. And sometimes something you didn't expect to blow up does. So
Yep.
so unfortunately, I have that working at the back of my head at all times. So I just kind of go with, okay, like, is this, like you said, is this great right now? And it was like literally the first song we did with for Born to Be Brave, we had Olivia Rodrigo. Like, I mean, did we know that she would become like the biggest thing in the universe? No, she could have been.
Right.
But like the entire cast is, I know people say that, but it's like a phenomenal cast. We're so happy for like Julia. I mean, that's like mind blowing and just so, it's so cool. It's so cool to like watch it and to be able to be like, they're really cool people and it's really deserved.
And also a little anecdote, side note with Sophia, we actually worked with her before she was on High School Musical.
We were Sophia's first recording session ever for Marvel.
Yeah. And then we went to write with her just as an artist thing, which she ended up switching focus really to the acting. But it was really cool just because we kind of had more of a personal relationship with her. Not only finding out that she won the gig on High School Musical. We're so happy for her. And to see her again, we're like, oh my God, like we hugged. It's a big reunion. And then just to kind of see, you know, what she went to do after. Like she was
huge movies. Like she's a star.
Yeah. So it's cool to watch.
And it's also a really nice group of people.
Yeah.
Like genuinely like really nice. And everyone we worked with on the shows, and Tim's incredible. Like it was a great situation and a great experience. And I'm actually really sad it's over.
Yeah, I know everyone is.
Yeah.
It was an incredible show. So for you guys, writing happens usually, traditionally in a studio or even at someone's house. But with High School Musical, the series, did you guys spend a lot of time on set, or how did that work?
No, we might have if COVID hadn't happened. I don't know what they would have done if COVID hadn't happened. I know what we've done with other Disney shows in the past, and that we'd be flown out or we might visit the set or whatever. Every situation's a little bit different. But specifically, we got Born to Be Brave before the pandemic, so we flew out to Utah and we recorded people there, and that was a great experience. We didn't go to set for that, but then afterward, everything we did was pandemic.
Yeah. And actually,
so
Finally Free, what we did with Josh Bassett, that was our first in-person writing session back after the height of the pandemic, which we did in our backyard, which was it was cool. It was really nice to be able to finally, I mean, we were sitting like 50 feet away from each other. It was nice to kind of get back to some sort of normalcy and three-dimensional face rather than just
Zoom.
Zoom. But it's mostly majority of what we do depending on the project. Like Tova had mentioned Julie and the Phantoms, which was a much different scenario where we were very involved. We were on set, we were at the rehearsals, we were talking with everyone, and like that's actually one of the
also
things
pre-pandemic
that got us really into wanting to develop our own projects too.
Yeah.
But other than that, majority of stuff is done here in our studio, just the two of us sitting on the floor yelling sounds.
I love it. True songwriters. So if there were to be a spin-off of High School Musical, the series, who would you like to see the show center around?
Oh no, you can't ask that. You can't ask
that. Is the answer.
Look, there's some very obvious answers where, like, obviously we want to know what happens next with Ricky and Gina. Like, we want to know these things, right? But I'm not going to lie to you. I deeply love Carlos.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Why does it have to be one?
It can be everyone.
Why does it? Yeah. And you know what? And also there's like some of the new characters, like, I mean, just not just within the show, but like Liamani, who's amazing. Like this girl.
So sweet. She's a good girl.
So sweet, but like that voice is like, oh my God, I could follow that voice for years. Like she's so good. Like she will blow up. I'm telling you. Yeah. Totally. So I don't know. Do you have a better answer?
I probably only have a worse answer, which is
no, okay, I could change it. Oh, go ahead.
It's not really.
What kind of song would you write if they called you up and they're like, hey, we're doing one last, episode or a spinoff? What kind of song would you write? Was there anything like a subject matter, some kind of song that you would have loved to write for it?
I will say this. My answer is going to be very biased because the way they ended the series, the entire thing, they ended with we got to do a reprise version of Born to Be Brave, which was so special to us because it was the first song that we got with the series. And just to watch the impact it made, it's all across like social media and YouTube and people doing these incredible covers, and also the impact that it made on the people involved in the show. Like when Tim told us that they were closing out the entire series with Born to Be Brave, we were like, what? Like it was such an honor. And just the way they did it too, they had a beautiful just orchestration leading up. I'd probably want to just leave it right there and be like, that's for us, that's an amazing way to go out. If it wasn't that, then I'd probably have a different answer. But some people, like, they'll shut down shop, close the show when they know like that's the height for them. Don't want to do anything after this because it might not be as special as that. So for me, that moment was perfect.
I'm never satisfied, so I'll give it to
of all people.
We actually didn't get a love song on High School Musical. Series. And we, for other shows, have. And again, it's just the luck of the draw, and they have some beautiful songs. Like the last song before Born to Be Brave in the last episode's phenomenal. But we didn't get to do that, and I would have liked to do that.
Yeah. Well, you guys will have something very close to that happening soon. I'm sure you guys, it's incredible. It's just to hear like the goals that you set and then how they just really came to life. And like you said, it's like nothing can happen for years and then something hits and the momentum goes crazy and it's like the biggest blessing. So awesome.
No, it's 100% true. Yeah. You have to run.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I was going to say that's it, but do you have any final piece of advice for, I don't know, aspiring songwriters in the industry? What's the one thing besides, I think it takes like a crazy amount of hustle and drive and hard work. Do you think there's any other secret sauce or special thing that it takes?
Yeah. I mean, I think the secret is that there's no secret, and a lot of people look for the secret or the shortcut, and you'll end up realizing that you try to take a million shortcuts, that shortcut equates to the same long road that you're going to take anyway.
That's true.
But one thing that I believe is that if you are obsessed with it, you can't just love it. Because if you love it, if you love something, that something can hurt you. And when something you love hurts you, your intention is to walk away from it because that's, not a good feeling. But if you're obsessed with something, as crazy as it sounds, nothing will stop you, no matter how much it hurts. And I'm not saying that we have had our limbs chopped off, essentially, but there is like everyone in this industry will tell, even the most successful people will tell you, there's so much rejection, and no one sees the no's. They only see the yeses. So if you're obsessed enough with your passion or your art or whatever, that's going to be the thing that gets you through all those no's to get you to all your yeses. So it's really just a matter of keep continuing on, keep going. And I think anyone can do it if they just decide to do it, honestly. So
that's good. That's really good.
Somewhat mirroring here. I was going to say, don't stop. That's literally really all you can do is don't stop. Sure. And I watched songwriters over the years who were my friends be like, I'm not doing it anymore. And I'm like, how does that work?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you wake up tomorrow and do it anyway? Like how do you do that? So I'd say don't stop. And I'd say, like you said, you need to be able to handle criticism.
Yeah.
Really do need to be able to handle criticism. And you also need to be able to know, and this is just with practice, is like what to take in.
Yeah.
Not to take in. You think you have it figured out, you don't, and to go back. Like it's a lot of humility. over and over and over. And the other thing I'd say is everything, like we said, can flip in a second, but in different ways. Like coming up, there were people who were my peers who their careers seemed to take off. And I was really like, I mean, not to be an asshole, I was jealous. Like I wasn't sad for them. I was happy for them, but I was like, what about me? And you're so sure people are ahead of you. And then in a year or 2 years, like literally the way things can flip so quickly where you're like, oh, I thought that was their happily ever after. And it wasn't. But then you also have to like turn that towards yourself and go, okay, so like don't get big headed. What have you done? That's cool. What do you still want to do? And guess what? It still can flip. Like that's just what life is. And you have to be able to like accept that.
That's the thing I was going to add, which is you have to really make it a point to acknowledge that everyone's path to success is completely different. So just because this person got there during this time period that quickly or that long, it has nothing to do with your journey. So everyone's is completely different on their own timeline. So you cannot compare yourself to anybody because that will only get in the way.
And then I have one more piece, sorry. And then I'll stop. These are not like great sound bites. These are just like brains going off on tangents. But I think especially now in the music industry for songwriters, it's just such a tough time, especially if you're a top liner and you're not a producer and you're not getting certain fees that should exist that don't for songwriters. But essentially a lot of times you can be successful in this industry and not feel like it because of or either your bank account's not reflecting it or it's still like very hard and you feel like you're struggling, and it's okay. And it's not your fault, and it's normal, and it doesn't mean you're not successful. It just means that we're in a weird, sucky time for songwriters, and we'll all get through it, and you just keep going.
Yeah. So good. So good. So solid. Thank you, guys. It was such an honor speaking with you guys.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Of course. Well, seriously, thank you both. That was such a cool interview. You guys are like, man, so inspirational. And the wisdom is just really, it's great. So thank you guys so much for your time. And we're going to post this everywhere, including, of course, our website, but our socials, TikTok, Instagram. We'll be sure to tag you guys everywhere. So
fantastic. Great to meet you.
And good luck with all your pursuits.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. You too. Thanks again. And we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.
I'm Doug.
I'm Tova.
And thank you. And please don't forget to subscribe to Young Entertainment Mag.